But the Lord liveth, that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Behold, I will send my fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. For my eyes are upon all their ways. They are not hid from my face, neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes. Jumping forward to July of 1956, I was receiving a lot of pressure to go into medicine. I could have been a good doctor. And I didn't know what to do. So one day I went to church, the Presbyterian church in downtown Lansing. And I was determined to get an answer. And I sat in the balcony listening. I couldn't tell you what the preacher said. I couldn't tell you his name. I couldn't show you where it is today. But I do know what was said to me that day. The thought came to me that took me back to 1946 on that bus trip in the South, where those people every night got off the bus with a prayer. I didn't know how to pray. We had our hands around the table that we prayed, but no child ever prayed. And the Lord said to me that day, he says, if you will pray like they prayed, you will get an answer. And so at 10:30 Friday night, I got down on my knees. I'd never done this before. I had never in my life done this before. And I started praying. I didn't know how to pray, but I begged and I pleaded. I got up on the bed and I turned and I cried and I yelled. And I didn't pray for just 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour, from 10:30 till about 4 o'clock in the morning, just a little before it got daylight. And then at about 4:30, about 4 o'clock, about a half hour before it got daylight, I had this extreme feeling. It was something that I had never seen or felt in my life. It was a light. It was a light that began in the base of my head and went up through the head, up through the roof, up through the trees, and there was no end to it. It was the brightest light that I'd ever seen, and I have never seen a light brighter, even to this day. I went to sleep, and the following morning I woke up and I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to go in and get my degree in agriculture. In September of 1960, my former wife had bought some books, world books for the children, and I didn't think we had the money, and we had a little spat. And she said, all right, from now on, anybody comes to the door, I'm going to tell them to come back and see you. And so the missionaries had come, and she told them to come back and see me. And they did. They came in and knocked on the door about 7 o'clock that night. And so they came in, I sat them down on the couch, and I sat in a chair just like you're sitting there now. And I thought I was a hot shot. Because I had been studying the Bible now for 4 years. And I really studied it. And since that experience in Michigan. Then they told me the Joseph Smith story, about his visit into the woods in Palmyra. And the moment they told me that story, I can see it today. That light came back into my mind. And I knew what they were teaching me was true. And I never looked back. But There's one caveat. I smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day. Missionaries never told me I had to quit smoking. They never told me I had to give up 15 cups of coffee as a lobbyist or giving up alcohol as a lobbyist. That's our tools and trade. And I wanted to join, and I really wanted to join. But we lived in a Navy community. Now you got to remember this is 1960. The church is still that little sect out west, you know. I had never heard of it. I had never heard of the Mormon church. And so the neighbors started really giving us a hard time. And I mean a hard time. My first wife, they scared her to death. They said people would spit on them and stuff like that. And so, but I still wanted to join. And I put it off 3 or 4 times. And one day I was sitting in my office. I still couldn't give up cigarettes. I mean, if you smoke 4 packs of cigarettes, you have no idea the hold it has on you. The nicotine hold, it's deadly. And that's my problem today. That's the reason you see me not breathing. And so I left my office one day and I told my secretary that I was going to go home. And I stopped at a little park along the way, on the highway home. And it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I pulled into the park, the sun was coming in from the south into the windshield. I said a little prayer asking the Lord to help me get rid of this smoking habit. Because I was literally physically shaking. I weighed only 129 pounds. And I said a prayer. I laid over on the seat. And I woke up a couple hours later, and my clothing was so wet that you could have wrung a quart of water out of my clothing. But from that moment to this moment today, I have never had another desire for a cigarette, period. And so then the next incident in this story is this. I went and we made another appointment to go down on the 17th of December, 1960, to Orlando to be baptized. My wife was giving me a hard time. The neighbors were giving me a hard time. And I went down with the full intent of not joining, of telling them. But I had made a commitment to the missionaries that I'd be there, and I was there. The building is no longer there. It's gone, the building I was baptized in. And so the 2 elders that were going to baptize me spent 3 hours trying to convince me that I needed to be baptized. And then they finally called in a zone leader. You know what a zone leader is. And he was older. The younger boys were 18 and 19. And the zone leader was 25. He had only joined just a year earlier or so, and he was older. And he was able to communicate with me, and he convinced me that if I wasn't baptized that day, that I would never be baptized. And I think he probably was right. So we changed clothing, put on our baptismal clothes, and they took me into the waters of baptism. And they brought me out dripping wet, as they all do. You've done this. And sat me on a chair, just like you're sitting there now. But there was a metal chair. And I don't remember who the voice was, but whatever it was, they confirmed me a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and said unto me, receive the Holy Ghost. That moment, I raised off the chair. I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about literally. That's how powerful that blessing was. There really isn't anything better. God lives. Jesus is the Christ. And the Holy Ghost will answer your prayers in a manner you can't believe. And if you're willing to do the work, He'll give you the chance. That's the story of my life.